Hi, member of the Grief Free Rooted community. In the spirit of learning, this is actually a book review of the most important books that I have read over the last almost 3 years in terms of helping manage my grief. So, reading as a form of grief management is called bibliotherapy, biblio as in books. And one of the challenges I faced when I was trying to find support for my experience was I found that online communities for grief were emotionally driven, which serves a purpose, and there was a lot of people expressing their emotions, but I didn't find an intellectual or an analytical community online in which I could make sense of my experience. So I turned to books and I essentially gave myself an unintentional, self led master's degree in psychology and social work. And here's what I learned. You cannot go on Amazon and randomly try to buy grief books. What I found is a lot of people who experience the loss of a loved one can self publish books on Amazon. And the problem is that person may not be trained as a mental health professional or have any level of education that would help inform what they're writing. And I found a lot of books to be really heavy on description, describing the life and the passing of their loved one, but they lacked analytical rigor and they certainly lacked a set of actual tools that were actionable for the reader. And I also found that some books are excellent for fresh grief in your first year, whereas other books are much better for later on when you're in the period of meaning making and you're not in fresh grief. So here is the order of the most important books I read. I'm only including the most important ones. I'm not including all of them. And the order in which I think they're most useful to be read. So, in the first weeks and months of fresh grief, I don't even have a copy of my favorite book because I continue to buy it and then I keep giving it away because it's so good. And that is any book written by my Arizona State University colleague, Joanne Cacciatore, who lost a newborn daughter. And her books are best. I don't have a copy because I keep giving them away. Her best books that I read in the first few weeks after my son was laid to rest were number one, Bearing the Unbearable. So if you know anyone who recently has lost someone in fresh grief, I think Bearing the Unbearable is the best book that someone can read for the first time. It's short, the chapters are short, the paragraphs are short, and it's easy to digest in 5-minute chunks. As we know, a traumatized brain does not function at full capacity, and someone in fresh grief simply can't read a book beginning to end or even listen to a book beginning to end. So Joanne Cacciatore, Bearing the Unbearable, and Grieving is Loving are short and digestible for fresh grief. Then, when you are at the stage of why, which is probably going to be after the first couple weeks, one of the best books I read was Harold Kushner's When Bad Things Happen to Good People. He lost a child to a genetic illness. He is a Jewish rabbi. And that this book answers the question, why me? Why my person? Why my child? Why my family? And the answer is, why not you? Why not your child? Why not your family? There's nothing about any of us that is so special that we have a right to navigate life without having a loss in it. And Harold Kushner speaks to that. After that, a book from a fellow grieving parent is Rob Delaney's A Heart That Works. And it spoke to me because he also lost his child in a foreign country. But this is a soothing narrative from someone who gets it. So if you need a friend, Rob Delaney's A Heart That Works is your friend in a book. That was about 6 months in. And then towards the end of my first year, I got a lot of solace from Colin Campbell's Finding the Words. And what Colin Campbell has been through and his wife, they lost both of their teenage children in a car accident when they were all together. And so when you read a book from someone who has just objectively lost more than you have, and this person is able to articulate it and find meaning in post traumatic growth and do beautiful things for both of his late children, how can you not be inspired to try to pull yourself out of the darkness that you're living in? Much more analytical is from my fellow professor, Lucy Hone, Resilient Grieving, who also lost her young daughter in an automobile accident in New Zealand. And the reason I like this and why she inspires me is she uses her social science training as a professor to analyze and make sense of her grief. So I find the book Resilient Grieving to meet my intellectual needs. And then the single most inspirational book that I've ever read, again, I don't have a copy of it because I keep giving my personal copy to other people. Books are my love language, is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust, and he lost his loved ones, including his wife, in extermination camps. And his point is that, much like Nietzsche, who's not someone I look to as an intellectual role model, but there is the important ideal from both Nietzsche and Viktor Frankl that a person who has a why can bear any how. So if you can make meaning out of your loss will become bearable. So that's why Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is dog-eared. I write notes. I have continuous copies that I can't manage to keep in line because I keep giving them away. But please read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning when you are at least 2 years into your loss, because asking someone who's in fresh grief to find meaning in their tragedy, it's asking too much for them, and I think it's unreasonable for a fresh griever to be engaging in meaning making. Then, now that I'm at almost 3 years, the books that I'm working on right now are anything by Michael Singer. One of them is The Untethered Soul, and the other one is The Surrender Experiment. And again, this is for when you have integrated your grief, accepted your grief, and a good proxy indicator is if you can think about your child and smile, and thinking about your child can bring you joy and not just pain, then you might be at a point in which Michael Singer and people like Viktor Frankl and Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death. This is very high level reading, by the way. This is college level reading. So if that's not for you, that's okay. But I think if you're at a point where you can smile about your child and not always feel pain 100% of the time, then these more analytical, philosophical books might be a good fit for you. So that is my book review of grief-based books that have helped me in my bibliotherapy and are a big part of how I have come to accept my grief and engage in post-traumatic growth. I hope they help you too.